I've even got a cup of tea, even though it's too warm for tea right now. Good morning. Good evening, everybody. No matter where you are in the world, we'll say hello, hello. My name is Margaret. I'm the author of historical fiction and eclectic reader of this channel. And today I am hosting a lovely first-time guest, Alan. So hello, Alan. Say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent. So what did we read? Give us a little preview.
What did we read? We read, where have I? I've got a pile of books here. We read.
Oh, look at your tabs stick out. I actually just turned down corners for this.
Yeah. I could prefer that because then I can take them away once I've made some notes, which I haven't done yet still. So
yes. So I've got some questions for you, sort of general questions, and then we can go into things that we really liked about the book or that surprised us or interesting facts. But The Songs of Trees is by David George Haskell. That's his website. He's got lots of interesting stuff, which we'll reference throughout the discussion, but I just wanted to put that on the screen for y'all if you wanted to put it in another tab. And while you're checking out other tabs, you can go subscribe to Alan's channel because he's got really cool book reviews and book tags and fun things to share. So the first question was, what made you pick it up?
Well, I didn't because it was a Christmas present.
Okay. Was it on a wish list?
Probably, yeah. To be fair, it probably was on a wish list because people who kind of know me know that I've got loads of books, and it's a bit like Russian roulette, buying me a book that I don't have. So
yeah, true.
They say, well, give us a list of books that you like, and obviously that was on it. Probably because I've read his books before. So and it's relatively new. He's got a more recent one, I think, that's come out this year or end of last year, which is about flowers. But I think this was the kind of one, kind of immediately before that. So, yeah.
I'm very intrigued by him. He has these like long-term projects of visiting trees and collecting data. So I'm like, what does he do day to day? So
I think he's a academic. So he's a lecturer.
Yeah. Okay. I actually found my copy in a little free library, lest you think I did all the damage to this book. It sort of arrived like this. I just turned down the corners. So I look in lots of little free libraries as I go around. Basically, if you don't have those in your area, they're little like mailbox sized. People can decorate them any way they want. They've got an official sort of plaque that says they're part of the Little Free Library Network, and they're on a map, a GIS map. And I look at a lot of them to see if there's anything that hits my eye. And, especially if there's nature things, I go, ooh, So I picked it up here in Portland. And when I saw your gift haul, I was like, oh, wait. And so fast forward 5 months, we've read it, we've digested it, and we have our discussion today. So it's lovely that worked out.
Yeah. No, we do have little free libraries. Can't say that. But we've got what we call ours in the village is a book exchange box. So it's actually an old red telephone box.
Oh, nice.
That all the gubbins has been taken out of, and someone's put some shelves in, and so it's
All the what has been taken out?
Gubbins.
I'm not familiar with that word. Is that like a doodad?
Yeah, something like that. It's the phone.
I'll have to add that to my collection.
The phone and all the telephone directories and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's fun. I have a question of the day in the chat. I thought I might ask one and then return to it if people answer. It's what's the first book you remember with a tree in it? And I'm pretty sure there's one book that's going to come out in front, but I just thought I'd say hello to the chat. Hello, Julie.
Go on.
Oh, Julie's got an answer. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. It's a great book. And The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, which I think is a ghost story by Josephine Leslie, which features a monkey puzzle tree. Oh, that's a fun fact. I don't know that people had that on their radar. Hello, Anita. Welcome in. Hello, Leslie. Leslie's here. And Laura. Hello, Laura. The Magic Faraway Tree. Is that a book you're familiar with?
I've heard of it, yeah. Because isn't there is there a movie out at the moment?
You know more than I do.
I'm gonna have to hang on. I'm gonna.
Leslie's answer is Caps for Sale, which I've never heard of. How does that have a tree in it, or which tree does it have? That could be really. It's not what I think of when I think of caps in Los Angeles.
Yeah, there is a new movie.
Oh, okay. The Faraway Tree, Magic Faraway Tree. Nice.
So it's an Enid Blyton.
Okay. Classic children's. Gotcha. Yeah. Excellent. Let's see. Comparative titles. So in the publishing industry, these are called comp titles. These are things that you would use to market your book. You say it's like this, but with this, or something like that. So I was wondering if you could think of any that sort of, maybe besides the author's other works, other books that made you think of the style or the content or the structure or anything.
Yeah, I think that there were a couple, and I've got. Did I get them both here? Yeah. So I've got a couple of kind of books I've read previously. So there's Wildwood by Roger Deakin.
Okay.
Which is it's a bit more. It's not the same structure in terms of like the chapter by chapter. So in the Songs of Trees, each chapter is a book. A tree. Each chapter is a tree.
Yeah.
This is more just a general. It's got the same kind of travelogue type approach, but it's there's much more detail in there, and it's more about how trees are used and so on and so forth. So, and then there's The Wisdom of Trees by Max Adams.
That's on my shelf to read. I haven't read it yet. Is it good?
Yeah. I mean, it's very UK centric in terms of the trees. So he doesn't really, they're all, I think, pretty much all native British trees.
Okay.
So whereas Haskell goes to the
the
Peruvian rainforest for one of his, and various
cities of New York.
Yeah. So
cool. Is it all the trees that are in the Ogham alphabet? Because aren't those all native to Britain? It's one of the things I was studying like last year, so it's in my notebook.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, some of them are what you'd call kind of ancient. So there's like elm and things like that, which aren't. You don't see many elm trees in the UK now because of Dutch elm disease.
So
you only see ones that have been developed as disease-resistant trees, or are like wych elm and some of the cross species.
So just to give a glimpse, this is when I was working on memorizing all the signs and symbols for the Ogham alphabet and the trees that are included. And I don't see elm on there, even though it's native.
Rowan's on. Rowan's, so it's birch, rowan.
I've got alder, willow, ash, hawthorn, oak, holly. Then they put some funny ones in, like vine and ivy and reeds. And I think, and gorse and heather. And I'm kind of like, well, are those trees? So.
Oh, and not really. I mean, they're woody, but they're not.
Right. Yeah. Caps for Sale is a children's book with illustrations. Okay, I will trust Leslie on that. And there's a tree on the cover. Gotcha. A man sells a large pile of hats. Oh, caps. Okay. But after waking from a nap under a tree, his caps have gone missing. That sounds very cute. Hello, Gareth. Good evening. Yes, and a salute to the thing we should have mentioned at the beginning. What day is it? Yay! Dressing for the day. May the 4th be with you, everyone.
Yes.
Oh, my planner contains leaves that I've picked up as I walk around, so they're pressed and they just fell out. So sorry about leaning over to catch that. Yeah, so Star Wars Day. Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. All right, so comp titles that I had, I've read a book called Fox and I. Have you heard of this one?
No.
And I don't have it because I listened to it on Libro.fm. It's by a woman called Catherine Raven. But it's her stationing in a house in basically isolated Montana where she's observing wildlife and she's a scientist for her job. But she's chosen to sort of like get out of the society that's not working for her. And then she observes this fox that comes and visits. So there's lots of nature memoirs like this. She does a little bit more personal exploration than Haskell does for sure, but there is a lot of analytical and technical explanations of animal habits. And so I thought that was pretty similar. And then Orchard, which I think you have also read.
Not read it yet, no. But
okay.
It's on my list. Yeah, I remember you mentioned it.
Yeah.
A few months ago.
Is a great one. That's where they have a piece of land that has been the same for like 300 years, not touched by development. And they just go in and they look at all the ecosystem pieces, the life that is its own organism, the insects and the soil and the birds and the trees. And it's great. Let's see. It's also Ralph's birthday. Wait, Ralph's, your dog or the Muppet? He's 18. Well, the Muppet would be older.
Muppet must be older than that.
Right. Hello, Julie says, Dutch elm disease did a number in my home state of Minnesota. We lost our giant elm in our front yard. Yeah, the diseases are definitely taking a toll.
Yeah, we're having a lot more ash dieback now as well.
Ash.
Yeah, so a lot of the big old ash trees are, they're basically dying. So and to stop it spreading, they're having to cut them down so that
preemptive.
Yeah, so we're losing all our ash trees as well.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah, we have several species like that in the U.S. that we have been losing the battle to preserve. Okay, so what about general impressions after having read this? Thumbs up, thumbs down, didn't like the way they did something, appreciated the way they did something else?
I think overall, definite thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. There's quite a bit, in terms of the trees, it was like, world tour kind of trees. So like you said, there was the Peruvian rainforest, there was the olive trees in sort of Gaza, Israel. There was hazel trees not really hazel trees, the remains of hazel trees in Scotland.
One of my favorite chapters, of course.
And Japan, and so it was that kind of looking at, and I think because he was looking at some trees that probably aren't that familiar with a lot of people, but there are, because there's obviously that there was the giant redwood and the pine and things like that. So there are also the trees there that, even if you've never seen them up close, they're kind of iconic type of tree. So most people have heard of the giant redwood, even if they haven't seen it, so
I was entranced by the species name, the sempervirens. I thought that's cool. Always vital, or like living. I don't know. It sort of struck me. I don't know the Latin and I don't know species names mainly, but just like the sense of it, the feeling of the words hit me. Yeah, the hazel exploration in Scotland was, of course, one of my favorite chapters. Archaeology, it's Scotland, it's ancient civilizations, it's like everything I love. It's great.
But as I said to you when we were reading it, it's, to me, that's not hazel, so it was completely different from, my, I don't know what the word is, but in my head what a hazel woodland looks like, which is a coppice woodland, so it's a woodland that gets regularly cut back, and the trees are regrowing constantly and so on. But from what he was saying, that's what he was looking at, was kind of what that would have been hundreds of years ago. So it's an industry that has carried on for all that time. So it's still going now, and he was looking at the archaeological remnants of it from way back.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes into the scientific, chemical signatures sometimes, and he's explaining how trees work with their soil or their, sensors and sensing organs. But sometimes he's talking about the human culture that grew up around it. And the opportunity to do that with the hazel in, the Mesolithic age or whatever he put out there, is because the fourth bridge was being dug, not ramparts, but the things that go down in the ground.
The footings.
The footings, there you go. And so they had to excavate, and they realized, oh, there's these ancient dwelling place remains. And so they were allowed to go in because we have laws about that sort of thing, or you do, and actually take some time to take the ashes and the middens and like all the cool like cultural signifiers, and those are saved in a museum drawer somewhere. And he goes through and just like sort of has some awe and reverence for these like 1,000-year-old remains, which I thought was really cool, and then draws all these conclusions from it. So really neat. It's a very slow-paced, digesting type of book. So 3-paced, if you will.
Yeah.
And
yeah, which I think, given that we're talking about trees, they're not, it's not like watching cheetahs on the African plains, zooming around chasing gazelles or whatever. It was very much about, the trees that, in terms of some of the really big, tall ones that have been around for decades, if not hundreds of years,
Before the book, sort of outside the book, do you have a favorite tree? I may have asked you this before, but not face to face.
I don't know. Probably I would say beech and oak, because those are the trees that I grew up around, so beech woodland and oak woodland. But I haven't got kind of like a favorite individual tree or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of beech trees near where I live now, so I kind of still get that kind of feeling when I'm walking through that particular woodland. And they're old trees as well. They are, some of those trees are trees that were big when I was a kid, so they are getting on for over 100 years old, probably easily.
I just read a book by the author whose family's in Cornwall, like championing the Atlantic temperate rainforest. And he has some opinions about beech, and he says you can keep them over to the east. Like they shouldn't come into Cornwall. They're invading the oak ground. They should stay over there.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to hear.
Yeah, I think, it's, we went through a period, when if you think back to when, we were as a country, we had a big navy, and all of those ships were wooden. We were having to grow a lot of timber, and that was oak and beech, which takes years and years to grow. So yeah, I can see why the woodlands are kind of structured the way they are today, because of that industry and the military need for that particular timbers. And then of course we technologically we move forward, and we start on iron and steel, and we don't
fuel
fuel
to make the iron and steel.
Yeah.
The sort of anchor childhood tree and trees that I grew up around that always give me like a homey feeling are pines ponderosa pine especially,
Mhm.
and, like, cedar and redwoods.
Yeah.
There's a specific smell whenever I go
Mhm.
into certain places, or even sometimes if someone has a lone tree in their front yard, I'll pass by, and the soil that is under it, and the air, and the branches that are, like, low hanging, they just take me right back to Yosemite. It's that same
Yeah.
smell, and you recreate that little bubble of memory. It's really neat.
Does it does it remind you of anything else in particular?
Um, I mean, because I've been in those environments, that's what it reminds me of, like, being at
Mm,
the cabin, being at Yosemite, um,
yeah.
yeah. The
I
other
just I
things that it would be related to, like, pitch, or I don't know, other, like, derivative smells, I guess, would have come after my memories of that, so
Yeah, well, it's the kind of the way smells and memories work together, so it's something we used to do when I used to do, educational visits in forest with school children, is that you take them in and you'd get them to rub particularly cedar, um, needles together,
Mhm.
and, you say to them, "What does the smell remind you of?" And 9 times out of 10, they'd say apples,
Interesting.
because that's it does, and it does smell like apples, if you know what an apple smells like, but it's the way your
I would've
brain.
said lemons. If it's the bright green new growth that's supposed to
Yeah,
give you vitamin C, I would've said lemons, but
yeah, but it's the way your brain categorizes
yeah.
smells, and then when it
Huh.
smells something, because most of them hadn't ever, done that and smelt a
Mm.
tree,
Yeah.
they go, so their brain doesn't know it's a tree,
Right.
their brain starts going, "Well, it smells like," you know? So, yeah, and the most of them used to say apples.
That's funny. That's cool. Julie's favorite tree, she says sugar maple, which is good, and a birch in Minnesota. I hope
Mhm.
they're still covering the landscape there, and palm trees in California. We do have some
Mm.
palm trees in California, not magnolia or jacaranda. So magnolia, I think, is from Asia originally. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And jacaranda, I think, is from South America. It came up. We have a
Mm.
jacaranda in front of the house that I grew up in, so I like
Mhm.
the jacaranda. My mom does not. I really do. Yeah. Oh, and weeping willows. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so favorite tree. What else do I have? Um, the book's purpose, and did it achieve it? Did you feel that it had a target audience, like, in a range of knowledge about trees, and did it hit it right? Was it too simple for you? Was it just right? What do you think?
Um,
And you can feel free to tell us a little bit about your background and how much you knew going into it, because I don't know if everyone
yeah,
knows.
I don't think, I mean, I like reading, natural history books anyway, so
Mm,
I will just, if it's a book on any branch of natural history, I will probably read it if I see a copy. Um, I know a bit more about trees than certain other things, just based on, my career, so by training, I'm a biologist, so I've, studied particularly sort of forest ecology and things like that. So, did I learn anything new? Yes, I did. Of course I did. I'm always learning things new. There wasn't I wouldn't say it was revelatory or anything like that, but I did enjoy it, because I think the way he's infectious in the way that he writes. He can tell a really good story without it becoming too bogged down in technical academic speak. Um, and he has an engaging kind of tone within that writing. So I think it's, what he was writing about was really interesting. Certain chapters, so the olive trees in particular, and partly because of, what's happening in that part of the
that
world currently, you kind of think, "Oh my God, there's a whole there's probably a whole industry there that is if it hasn't disappeared, it will do soon." And then, he was doing all of his kind of sound recording and things which fascinates me anyway. You know, just what he's been doing with sound. And he's got another book which is all about, you know, sounds. So yeah, no, I don't think I would say I was particularly the target audience. I think it is more pitched at a kind of general, you know,
enthusiasts.
Yeah. So
I really enjoyed it. I did have a few moments where I really liked not so much the information that he was imparting, but just like the framing or how he packaged the information. I felt like he was a really good science communicator and like context deliverer, if you will. I think he also did some pretty controversial things structurally. So he's got the maple chapters, which are like poetry stanzas with Roman numerals, but not really poetry, just sort of like journal entries. And he's trying to do something there, and I didn't really catch on to it. He's got the Middle East chapter where he's talking about now and long ago and the evolution of olive trees. He's also got the I got this since I've read the book. And I'm going to give it to a neighbor, but while I'm still taking care of it, I got a little bonsai here to share. It's a juniper. I picked it up on the drive back, and I thought, oh, cool. He talks about the pine tree, different type of pine than ponderosa. A certain one on the slopes of a Japanese highland on an island, and the reaction of trees to the atomic bomb. So there's like he's weaving together threads to sort of make you think about our influence on trees and trees' influence on us and how we live together. So I liked that, and some of the things he tried worked, and some of them didn't work as well for me. So yeah, but I appreciated that. Accuracy, clarity, style. I'm assuming you didn't find anything that was like blatantly wrong. I know some people do that with history. So yeah, science, I'd be less equipped to do that. And clarity. There were some pieces of the chapter where he was explaining something, and I had to ask you, what does he mean by the sound slows down? And what's a stromatolite? Or, you know, I had definitions of things I had to look up. So wasn't always clear to an enthusiast. And the style. What hit you about those three things?
I think I'd agree with you. There's the odd technical word or technical term that he used that, you know, like you said, you know, you didn't understand. I don't think I had the same problem, but that's, you know, partly due to my background. But yeah, I think no issue with accuracy. There wasn't anything that I kind of picked out that I think time has moved on a bit since the book was published. So, you know, there are certain things where, you know, like you say, the Middle East chapter, where we know that that's going to be drastically different. You know, I like the style. I like his style. You know, and I think what you said, you know, he is a good science communicator. You know, I follow him on Instagram, and, you know, this morning he was on there talking about, it was evening primrose flowers, and how when they hear the buzzing of bees, they produce, I don't know whether they produce, can't remember now, they either produce more nectar or a sweeter nectar in order to get the bees to come in and collect pollen and pollinate the flowers. You know, and it's just like, well, nobody really kind of, I don't know whether Gareth might know who I'm talking about, but if you know the biologist David Bellamy.
The name rings a bell, but I don't.
He was, when I was a kid, so in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, he was on TV a lot doing all sorts of things, you know. So they shrunk him down as a little miniature man and put him with insects and things. So did all sorts of crazy things that, you know, were probably cutting edge at the time. And you know, now you look back and think, well, we can do that with CGI or whatever.
He sounds like your version of Bill Nye the Science Guy, maybe.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But he reminds me, and he, he's got a beard, and David Bellamy had the big, huge, great big beard. So he reminds me a lot of him and the way he communicated, and it wasn't dumbing the science and the nature down. It was just explaining it in a way that everybody could understand. So it's that kind of approach, I think, is great, because it means that everybody is kind of able to kind of speak at the same place on the page and say, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I think he's great. I mean, I said to you, I think he's a little bit eccentric in some ways, but not in a in a good way, not in a bad way.
So David Bellamy and Johnny Ball with maths were massively important to our childhoods.
Yeah, Think of a Number was Johnny Ball's math program. So it's all like once a week, and
that's our public television programming is like going to be totally separate. And now, of course, I'm sure people can just talk across countries because it's all the same garbage. I mean, but I think we had really good educational programming when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that I think you found eccentric, or that you knew was going to be in there going in, was the sound collection of data, which I think I don't know anyone else who has done.
I think more from I think it was the first book of his that I read, which I've got here, which is The Forest Unseen.
Okay.
So what he did in this book is he went into the forest. Is it a meter square? Yeah, so it's a 1 square meter patch of the forest, and he went there every day for a year to see how it changed.
Did he have equipment in there to like see below the soil layer?
He took things with him to do that. I don't know whether he left anything there through the year. I can't remember now. So yeah, that. But if this isn't, I'm gonna just read you a patch. So this is January 21st. So he went every day, and then it's written very much as a diary. So he's gone there, and it's a cold January day, and he writes, "I want to experience the cold as the forest animals do, without the protection of clothes. On a whim, I throw my gloves and hat onto the frozen ground. The scarf follows. Quickly I strip off my insulated overalls, shirt, t-shirt and trousers. The first 2 seconds of the experiment are surprisingly refreshing and pleasant coolness after the stuffy clothes. Then the wind blasts away the illusion, and my head is fogged with pain. The heat streaming out of my body scorches my skin." So he's, basically stark naked in the middle of the forest because he wanted to experience it the way the animals do. You think, well, hang on a minute. They've got like fur and
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought, he's always struck me. And say, you follow him on social media, and he does, he's so enthusiastic, and but there is a little bit of, I think, eccentricity there, that in a good way. So but yeah, no, definitely with the sounds as well. It's
his specialty, I think. I read another book called Gathered, which is by someone who's also on social media, called The Chaotic Forager. And she had an experiment where she was putting a sound gathering device in the soil and sort of listening, and had to like wait until everything quieted down and forgot she was there, that sort of thing. And it was interesting. That was the first time I'd thought about sound in the soil. And so this is sort of like the next phase, which is like a whole bunch more data points. He starts out on page 8, so at the very beginning with the sabo tree, he's talking about how the indigenous tribes used to go around naked. Obviously, it was the freest way to hunt. It was the least encumbrance when they would have to, collect things or avoid things. And he was positing or theorizing that they would have to be very careful listeners in the forest because there's a lot going on to give information. And if you have to wear clothes like the missionaries want you to, that's going to like make noise of its own and announce your presence, as well as like not make you able to hear things.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay, that totally makes sense. And then later when he was talking about a sound piece, he's got page 139. I don't even remember which one he's talking about, but he's sort of planted himself in a place and is just going through all the things that he's hearing, especially birds. And I've tried to do that, especially in the mornings when I'm hearing bird song. And I can't even hold a bird's song, one phrase, in my mind after it has performed it. It has like 5 different parts, and I go, nope. There was 4. Was there 5? I can't remember because I can't count that fast. I can't reproduce it in my head right after it happens. So I feel like he's got a much more trained ear, and my ears are just the sound is unreachable to me, and I don't have training in it, so it's sort of like unachievable. And it made me think, this is a question later about biblioserendipity, but it made me think of the place in On Time and Water, recent read, where he was saying, Magnusson, the author, was saying in Iceland, they were part of Denmark for a long time, and someone came in the late 19th century and was talking about freedom and independence, and you need to do this and that and the other, and they were like, what are you talking about? We don't need any of that. We're just subsisting fine. And then 50 years later, after they had become more involved in the world stage, they were kind of like, oh, now we're ready for that idea. But that idea the words didn't even mean anything to them. So in the same way that the sounds are not even like making an imprint on my brain, I need to prepare the ground so that I can get better at it. Have you experienced that? Does it get better?
Yeah, no, it is. It's not, I mean, with bird song, it's just listening and practice, and it's so when we was growing up as kids, we almost used to get taught bird song to a certain extent, but it was as phrases. So certain birds say certain things. So the yellowhammer is the one that sticks in my head, because the song is supposed to be a little bit of bread and no cheese. But
Okay.
and it is.
How accurate are these mnemonics?
Well, a little bit of bread and no cheese with like lots of e's in it is how it sounds.
Okay.
So but you a lot of people know certain bird song without realizing it. So they know what a pigeon sounds like, or what an owl sounds like, so things that, and it's just kind of taking that bit further, and and it's the same with visually recognizing what certain things look like. So butterflies and dragonflies and damselflies, it's just over time learning.
Right.
It's just a different, it's just a different, it's just a different form of learning. Some of it's visual, some of it's auditory. I mentioned about the smells earlier. Some of it is to do with
Why is it sad? Because there's no cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if I've probably got a recording of it. So that's how sad.
I'll let you look up the recording.
Yeah, but it is that it's just learning and repetition.
Yeah.
And and the problem is with a lot of particularly things like butterflies and some birds, is because they're either migratory or they're only present for certain months of the year, particularly butterflies. So it's very easy to forget the detail in, so they're there for a couple of months, and then 10 months later, they're gone for 10 months and you don't see them, and then they're back and you think, oh, is that and also some of them look similar, so
And they
there's
look
there's
different
the
throughout their life cycle, and they look different males and females, and all these
and
different.
there's the ubiquitous, what we call the little brown jobs, which are the
Right. LBJs. I remember reading about that in a book. The LBJ. That was funny. That means a president in the American speak, so I had to learn that through the book. Yeah.
So
I have a friend who was just putting a video up about plant blindness, and she was talking about when she writes descriptions, it's very hard to visualize things because of the mental thing that she has. I think she was using plant blindness as a metaphor, but I think a lot of people in society today, especially in cities, have plant blindness in the same way that I'm talking about birdsong deafness, perhaps, in that I can't distinguish between them. But if I put time into it, eventually they'll stay in their own spaces, and I'll get the differences a bit more.
So let me just, I don't know whether this is going to work.
Let's see.
Because so I'm going to hold my phone up to the thing because
I love it. Is that an app? Is that a recording to identify species?
Yeah.
Is it the Merlin app?
It's the Merlin Bird ID app.
My parents use that.
Yeah.
That's so great.
So yeah, but I use it and then I kind of save some of the recordings. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me just put that in case people are curious, because I was like, that's a lot of before you get to the cheese part. But then I was like, yeah, if you counted it, if you could break it down as a scientist would. Got it. What else do we have? I think I've gotten a little off track because that was so interesting. Things that you were surprised to find, or your best discoveries, factoids from the book. And I've got a bunch, so I'm gonna have to pick. So you go first.
Okay. I think, again, I mean, some of the things we've mentioned, what I liked was he didn't just do, tree in the forest. So like he did do that. So the first chapter is tree in a rainforest, but he did, I can't remember which chapter it was now. It might have been an ash tree. It might have been the ash chapter, where it was the tree that had recently fallen.
Oh, right.
And he went, so it was, a tree that had been blown over. And he revisited the tree. Well, I can't remember how many times, but over a period of time, to see how it was, basically being taken back into the soil, and it was decomposing and so on. So, it was, he didn't just, and like we talked about the hazel and the archaeology, so he was coming at it from, like I say, it wasn't just a tree in a forest. He was coming at it from lots of different perspectives, and urban trees and rainforest trees, and it was so there was that variety. It wasn't just one, wasn't just like a dozen trees, in
name,
the same
rank, and serial number. Yeah. It's almost like how someone would craft a book tag, where you have like the title of the prompt, and then you have an explanation, and then you have an example, and it's combining the information you want to impart about the thing you're excited about, but also an example to bring something else in, like the urban environment or the World War II or the indigenous context. And he was very creative about experimenting with this.
So what about yours?
Surprised. He mentions peat moss. So he goes into the boreal soils, the boreal forests, and how they're holding a lot of carbon, and how peat moss is in your local grocery store or hardware store, and it's taken from boreal bogs. And I was like, is that true? That's terrible. Like, what?
Not so much now, I think. So we, so the sort of soil you buy as a gardener from the garden centre now doesn't have the peat content that it shouldn't have any peat content in it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you use, I don't think you can buy peat moss anymore, but you know, not in this country, or maybe you can in the States still.
The Wild West over here.
Yeah, but you know, it was the sort of thing that, you know, it was, I guess, aesthetically pleasing, for want of a better term, that, you know, you would use it. And yeah, the origin, you know, it wasn't like it was, you know, it's not fair trade peat moss or anything like that. You know, it's you know, the genuine thing that has been a bit, and I think that's probably true of a lot of the, you know, the garden wildlife trade, pet trade generally is, you know, what would have been done, you know, 40, 50 years ago has changed drastically, because we understand a lot more now than we did then. So we, you know, there's been a drive in this country because of, you know, they would take, you know, the peat bogs and mix it to make compost for gardeners in you know, and you know, that was damaging the peat bogs. It was releasing loads of carbon when it was dug, you know, and ultimately not a good thing.
Right.
You will get the argument back from gardeners that is, well, now the compost we've got is not very good, you know, because it's coir and all sorts of things mixed together. And well, that's
depleting your soil. You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. But that's because, you know, peat bogs are hundreds, thousands of years old.
Unrenewable.
You know, exactly. You know,
have you read Gathering Moss by Robin Wall Kimmerer?
I've read, what's the other one? Braiding Sweetgrass, is it?
Yeah.
I've read that one.
She has a piece in Gathering Moss, which I think is 2015, where she's talking about someone she worked for as a moss specialist, and they wanted to construct something in their garden, and they went into a moss forest, a pristine moss forest, and just like scooped it up kind of with a building earth mover equipment, whatever, and just like tore it to shreds. And they bring it back and they're like, why isn't it thriving in my garden? And she's like, talk to you about this. Like, there's such a gap. But yeah, so apparently that was still happening, you know, in the last 20 years. Ugh. Okay. What else did I have for this one? The poetry of lists. So that struck us both when we were reading the chapter about like flotsam. I can't remember what the tree that was involved. What was the tree that he was using that for? That had floated. Sable palm. Oh, right, because it's floating. So the palm tree, he's talking about beachcombing, or what do you guys call it?
What do you call it? Yeah, beachcombing.
I thought there was something else I came across.
Are you thinking of mudlarking?
No, because that's London. Someone in the Southwest used a different word, and it's a funny sounding word to American ears. But he has a piece where he's talking about across the centuries when Thoreau left a record of what he picked up on the beach, and then Haskell also went to pick up stuff on a beach and to compare them, and it was just sort of poetic how similar they were, along with all the plastic and the human detritus. Yeah, so I thought that was really neat. That was a cool thing to pop in there. And then the other sort of surprise is sort of leading into the biblioserendipity question. And it's about his framing. So on page 136 is where he talks about fire and how fire used to be a certain natural phenomenon, and now we've decimated the trees so much, there's so much tinder, there's so much fire, it's in a cycle that it's speeding up, and we're blowing out any of the records, just like carbon dioxide. And he says, For the last few hundred years, we've been in a relatively cool and wet time. So we built our infrastructure, town centers, reservoirs, suburbs, as if fire were a rare aberration. That time is over. We're all now downstream of the burn. And I thought, oh yeah, so we like built all this infrastructure, all this money, all this carbon invested in something that is no longer safe, that is no longer apt for the purpose. And it reminds me of I was just listening to a Planet Critical podcast with a guy named John Seed, who I think is an Australian who's into deep ecology, and he was discussing with the host some project he was working with where he was working with another environmentalist in like the politics sphere, and the lead was saying like, why don't you just go with the flow? Why do you always have to like be haranguing us about this or that? And he said, I am going with the flow. You're going with the 60,000 year eddy. I'm going with the much larger flow of time, of eons of time. And I thought, oh, that's a really good comeback. When you have a less human perspective on time, and you're able, maybe a tree's view or like a glacier's view of the world, and you're able to step back and be like, okay, what is natural? What is what the world wants to do rather than what we've made it do to survive?
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty eye-opening. So I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're really good at bending the natural world to our needs and then being surprised when it smacks us in the face.
Right. It's like you duck under a tree branch and the next person gets the branch in the face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Biblioserendipity question. I snuck a couple in there. How about you? Was there any way that something in this book talked with another book, perhaps you were reading concomitantly or just previously in your life?
Well, I think that, as I say, the whole sound side of it, you know, is of interest to me generally, and you know, his other book on sounds, which was, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old now, but it was, you know, it's for him, it's kind of a bit like a continuous thread. I can't speak today. Continuous thread through, you know, his, and I am thinking, I haven't, you know, read his new book, but I suspect it's going to be in there as well. You know, it's obviously something that he specializes in, but it's also, you think, you know, of all the other books that, you know, so we've talked about bird song, but you know, you think of, you know, whale song and things like that as well. You know, so there's a lot of, for me, was a lot of kind of crossovers in that area around songs. I don't think at the time I was reading it, don't think there was really anything else. So I, you know, I think the other big book I was reading at the time was the Talisman by Stephen King. So, you know, not, you know,
Nothing came out of the soil and sort of waved its
no,
microbial.
not really.
Got it. Oh.
So.
Did you find the slimy sublime? That's one of his lines in here, is that we need to change our aesthetics, and ecology has to become its own aesthetic rather than finding something postcard perfect. So in your career, perhaps, or when you read, do you ever find the slimy, or what people might consider icky, sublime? Do you have a...
Yeah, no, I do. I think, you know, I think it, I guess because I've always done that kind of thing, it's, you know, it's not slimy to me. It's just what it is, you know. But yeah, I think, you know, there's certain time. It's a bit like as you know, as a kid, if you'd picked up an earthworm or something like that, you know,
Pop it in the mouth.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that, but
some, I think many of us did as little babies. Yeah.
But you know, it is that kind of approach to things that, you know, it's a bit like, I mean, spiders is a different thing, because that is there is a genuine phobia there, but it's like, no, it doesn't bother me to pick up. If there's a spider in the bath, I'll pick it up and put it outside. But there's a different thing there, I think, going on. It's not.
Yeah.
There's a phobia thing there, it's not a slimy thing, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think he's right. I think we do need to stop thinking about, the nature and the outdoors and ecology as something that isn't part of our lives, because it is. Whether we like it or not,
It's us. It's us, baby. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've done a really good job of messing up a lot of it, and it is time to start recognizing it for its value, not as a resource, if that makes sense. So it has a wider value than just a resource. There is a natural capital, not a physical capital.
An economic capital,
Yeah.
even. Yeah. I was talking with a friend who has done soil ecology as a field of study, and I mentioned the phrase ecosystem services. She was like, "Oh, don't start. Don't make me start." Because that's a way that in the past 20, 30 years, our capitalist economy has quantified the tree is worthy of saving because it has this many dollar signs on it. And it's kind of like, well, if you have to do that in a pinch to get people to leave the tree alone, okay. But like, can we not take the wider view that it deserves to be part of the world just like we do?
Yeah.
And we
We
really
have
need it. Like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, our planning system in this country has adopted what is it, net biodiversity gain. So for let's say a housing development, it has to show a net biodiversity gain. So, they'll build the houses, and on that land, by the time they're finished, biodiversity has to have improved. So biodiversity gain. Unfortunately, it doesn't have to be there. It could be somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
So they could,
which affects the environment. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
almost
all
there, but not quite.
Yeah.
Story of our society.
It's like the odds are stacked against the environment, whatever it is. It's like, well, yeah, okay, well, we'll do it over there. We won't do it, because and everybody's doing it over there, and then you think, well, where is over there?
There is no over there, right?
Find out that over there doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, it's like the blue machine. There is no over there. Everything's related. The ocean is everywhere.
Yeah.
The water cycle. Ugh. Something you just said brought up something in my head, and then I forgot what it was when I thought of that other book.
It was housing, net biodiversity gain.
I'll wait for it to come back. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I had final sort of wrap up, I guess. I'm waiting for it to come back. I'm like, it's just on the tip of my brain.
Yeah.
So great book. Recommend for enthusiasts, for people interested in trees, lovers of trees, all kinds of trees around the world. How about what you're reading now? Give me one, and then what you're excited to read next. Can you give me one?
Okay. Well,
you need to think.
No, I don't need to think. I'm coming to the end of my journey through the Three Musketeers and all of those. So I'm reading The Man in the Iron Mask, and the next one in the Talisman series.
Okay.
So those are my kind of two of them amongst many others.
Yeah. Good deal. I am reading The Water Will Come by Jeff Goodell. So I've read his book about the heat The Heat Will Kill You First, which is a little later. This is from 2017, so this is about sea level rise and yeah, he's taking like different aspects of climate change, which I like, and there's really good stuff in here, even though it's 10 years old. And then one I'm interested in doing next, maybe, is a classic, Rose Macaulay. It's called Told by an Idiot. It's a Virago modern classic, and it's generational saga. So starting in 1879 and going up to 1920s, and it's how the world changes over that time. Social, political, religion, fortunes of England. And I was like, oh, that sounds right up my alley. So I just picked that off the shelf for a tag for something. I was like, oh, that sounds really good. You know, when you surprise yourself because you haven't seen the book in a long time, you're like, oh, why did I get this? Yeah. Any upcoming events you wanted to share or bring to people's attention?
No, I don't think so. I think May is on the event side for me is quite quiet. So
okay.
So May, June. Next thing I'm really involved in is in July. So that's a couple of months yet. So
you got a little downtime where you can just do the rest of your life.
Well, no, I've got loads. Like buddy reads is kind of just, I've got buddy reads coming out of my ears at the moment. So I normally do Wednesdays and Fridays, but this is a special time on Mondays. I wanted to take advantage of Star Wars Day, but I think I'm going to come back into normal schedule on Friday, and I'll be doing something for Mother's Day. That would be remarkable mothers or mother figures in literature. So I've carved out some of those, and I've planned some other fun videos for the rest of the month. So if you come back on Friday and visit Alan's channel to subscribe and David George Haskell's channel to listen to those cool sounds and check them out. And also just go out and sit under a tree and have a nice exchange gases with a tree. All right. Well, thank you, Alan, for coming by to visit and read the book. And it's been great. It has.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. And I hope you read a great tree-related book and learn something about your neighborhood trees. And I'll see you again soon.
Bye. Bye.